You became someone a lot of founders look up to. Who did you look up to when you were starting up? You mentioned Doug Leone as a mentor. Who was someone that you were like, wow, this is someone I look up to?
Yeah, so several people. I worked very closely and looked up to Nigel Morris from Capital One, who's now at QED. I had to start working with Nigel when I was at General Atlantic, and that's the first time that we went around Latin America looking at SME banks. And I love seeing Nigel's head exploded when he would get answers from these old banks about how they use data, and he just couldn't imagine that was the case. And I just started studying a lot about the Capital One case study, and I was super enamored with that vision of using technology and data. So he was somebody I continued to look up after he became one of our investors and board members. So he's phenomenal. And then there is a lot of companies that I've looked at. I think since the very beginning, Amazon has been a big inspiration, especially the customer centricity, because similar to them, we looked very closely. Customer centricity, customer obsession is our number one value. Chris, Ed, and I spent an entire day in Las Vegas at Zappos, looking at their customer service team and figuring out how to build that customer service culture. So we were very inspired by Zappos. Chris is a big fan of Disney. We spent a lot of time looking at Disney, at how do you create magic in the services industry. And we've sent people several times to Disney University. They have a university, they go there, and there's some really interesting stuff. So we were very inspired about those companies that were so focused on customers. And based on that vision, they were able to effectively use technology to reinvent an entire industry. Netflix was another one that we looked at very, very closely. You mentioned the Netflix culture deck. That was a bit of the inspiration to have a Nubank culture deck initially. And a lot of the values from Netflix are very similar to our values. We took a lot of the things that sounded right, and we imported those into our context. So those were some very clear inspirations for us in the very beginning.